Hi all and welcome to Opinion Nation, where I share my opinion and you share yours. And today, in my opinion, this dog is very comfortable. This is my little husky called Shiloh, and she's quite close to her daddy. She can be a little bit of a bitch at times, but well, I love her. My other dog, if you haven't met him, is called Merlin, and he's a Belgian Shepherd, and he's around somewhere. Today we're going to be talking about what has been happening lately in the news. So today in the news, I'm going to talk about the Charlottesville marches that happened during the course of this week. Today it's actually the 15th of August, so it's been a couple of days since it happened. But as a bit of a background, there was a protest or a march organised by a, you could probably say, far-right group in the US, in Charlottesville, to protest against the removal of a particular statue of a Civil War general, a general of the southern states. Because certain people find it offensive, because obviously, if you didn't know, one of the things that came out of the American Civil War were that the southern states were for slavery and the northern states were against it. The northern states under Abraham Lincoln ultimately won and thus abolished slavery in America. And there's a lot of controversy about the reasons why Abraham Lincoln decided to free the slaves, etc., etc. We could talk about that another day. Today we're going to concentrate on what this happened. Now this organised march was obviously organised all legally and that sort of thing, and there was an anti-protest by the left-wing liberals and various other organisations and people, probably Black Lives Matter, etc., etc. Now, the problem with this is that the right-wing march that was protesting to save the statue. Now, why they had to save the statue is because the governor of the state decided to remove this statue in Charlottesville, and certain people find that is wrong because that is part of history. And I'm inclined to come down on the side of the fact that the statue should remain. Physically speaking, I don't think the general contributed to slavery, or particularly because he was more. He's got a statue because he was a famous general that had a big role to play in the Civil War. Now, just because you don't like your history doesn't mean you should hide it. In fact, your parts of your history that you might not be so proud of, you actually should make sure that you can remember it so it's not repeated again. And I don't see how a statue of a Civil War general can be offensive to people. It wasn't a statue of the Civil War general amongst his slaves or anything like that. It was something dedicated to him and the men that fought under him, men that died for their country, and that needs to be noted, not hidden away in some sort of, back room or even in a museum. That statue was placed there for a reason. So I do not think it should be removed. However, the problem with this particular march is you had these two groups, the left and the right, and then some violence started kicking off. And as far as the right side, the biggest problem was that it was actually attended by white supremacists and Nazi groups, because the march was Unite the Right, and there's various organisations, but those two particular organisations, the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, are extreme factions and are obviously prone to violence. And I do not believe that's kind of what the organiser wanted to do. Anyway, the point being is some violence kicked off. Some twat in a car, drove his car into a group of protesters, or a group of the crowd, presumably of the left, and killed a young woman. And that is terribly wrong, and he should go to prison for the rest of his life, because he's a twit. I strongly condemn everything as far as the violence goes. And I do feel that as far as the extreme right, the Nazis and the KKK and that, they are stupid. They are just bullies and criminals. And they had no right to go around causing trouble. And all they've done is they've hurt the legitimate rights campaign and the legitimate rights view of the world, because now people are going to associate anyone with right-wing views, or not right-wing, with non-leftist views, with Nazis, and they're not. I am not a liberal. I do not belong on the left, generally speaking, but I am not a Nazi. I'm not a white supremacist, all that sort of thing. I'm just believe that I actually don't believe I'm even on the right. I believe I'm more in the centre, but I would be accused of being right-wing. And now, because of this, anyone who doesn't hold the normal liberal views is going to be accused of being a Nazi, and they're going to say, see what happened at that rally. Now, of course, the biggest issue is the media whips it all up and gives false narratives. The funny thing is, 2 policemen died as well in a related accident, but they don't seem to bother about that. You know, I think that's wrong. 2 policemen died in the line of duty. Why are they talking about that? Just this woman that was hit by that car. It's wrong. The other thing I feel is perhaps the violence was made easier to kick off because perhaps the police originally were not there in enough numbers to keep the 2 sides apart. And they should have known a bit better that obviously there's potential. It's very difficult to put my annoyance into words as far as the media. Trump, for example, they've turned this again into something anti-Trump. He's as guilty about, this than anybody else. He didn't particularly organise it. If people blame Trump for this, you could say the same for Bernie Sanders and that shooting that happened in his name on that baseball pitch. They did not want it to happen. They did not organise it. But, of course, the left and the media are making it look like it. Now, Trump came out pretty quickly with a quick statement saying how he condemned everybody involved in the violence. And the media turns it around and says, oh, but he didn't specifically condemn the KKK or neo-Nazis. Well, that is so stupid. Obviously he meant that. But it was a quick statement. When he said that, things were still ongoing. But he waited for the full facts. And the media pressured and talked, What difference does it make? He said all extremist groups. All people involved in this. Because there are 2 sides. There would be 2 lots of violence. But no, the media turns that into something wrong as well. It seems like everything he does, they'll find something wrong with it. And I'm going to talk about a bit about American presidents at some point to show people how, it doesn't matter who's president. They all as bad as each other. Just for some reason, this particular president, the left and liberals have a big problem with him, and so the media just seems to keep on, bashing him. I just say, leave him alone and let him get on with the job. He's no worse than any other president. But now the point is, of course, the other day he then came out and did a formal speech, which is kind of what you would expect from a president. Initially, with the facts in hand, he made a quick speech saying that he condemns it in general, and then after he knows the facts, he comes out and says, specifically to the people who are responsible. And he specifically named the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and he said, you know, they are repugnant, and he does not condone any of this. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way you should have done it. You have your quick statement first, and then when you know the facts, you say everything else. And he was right. I would also condemn the KKK and neo-Nazis, all that stupid, because they're such twits. And he was right to do that. But the press now, after he said that, said, oh, well, it's too little too late. He should have done this before. So even when he comes out and says what they said that he should have said, it's still not good enough. It's ridiculous. This is why people on the right are getting so annoyed. And this is why you get those people that end up becoming extremists. Because, things are so ridiculous. I think anybody with half a brain would not become an extremist. But, you could say that on the left as well. There are very extreme liberals, such as, Antifa, who are probably just as violent as some of the right-wing groups. The point is that obviously the focus is always more on right-wing than left-wing because the media is liberal. My view is it's a terrible shame that this happened in Charlottesville, but it's not the first time it has happened, and it's not the only time that such violence has broken out in a demonstration. There has been times when violence has broken out in a left-wing demonstration, in a liberal demonstration, but that's hardly reported on. But that just shows the disparity. I will probably do a little update on this if anything new comes through. But I just wanted to say, for me, my opinion is that that person who drove his car into the crowd is not worthy of any more time. He should go to prison and he should stay there forever. And as far as the right-wing groups that have come there specifically with the intent on causing violence, when they did, they're also just as bad, and they need to be stopped. Just like any left-wing extremism, such as Antifa, need to be stopped. What we need to do is, as President Trump said, we need to rather unite together. I'm not American. They are all Americans, all with the same laws and the same God. And he said that in his speech. And that is what people need to think about. Not how that he made the speech too late. Just think about what he said in the speech and report on the positives. As far as the people who died, including the 2 policemen in the line of duty, I feel for their families, and in my opinion, it was a waste for them to die. It shouldn't have happened, and hopefully it won't happen again. But with the way things are at the moment, with liberal politics pushing and pushing and pushing, these sort of things could become more common, though I hope they don't. So, yeah, I think I'm going to end my thing for now. Unless anything else comes up, of course. Well, it's goodbye from me for now, and goodbye from my husky, Shiloh, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye all.